everyone, hi, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my top 5 Pulitzer Prize for Fiction winners, my personal favorites from the ones that I've read. I want to know what you really love from the Pulitzer Prize, if you keep up with it, even if it's in a mild way. I'm just curious, like, your relationship with the Pulitzer and your favorite Pulitzer Prize winning novel. If you're new, then my name is Shelly. I really love to read. I love BookTube. And I don't know, if you are not yet subscribed, maybe subscribe, maybe leave me a comment. And without any further rambling on, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. The Pulitzer Prize for Fiction has been around since 1918, so we have a little more than 100 books to choose from. I think at least one of the years they didn't award a winner. I think this has happened a couple of times, or at least once. So again, we have more than 100 books to choose from in terms of winners. Out of the slightly more than 100 books, I have read 20, exactly 20. And so I was going to do a top 4, and then I realized top 5. And I feel very passionate about all 5 of these books. I think they're fantastic. I will leave all of the Pulitzer Prize winners that I have read personally down below, and I will leave a link to the Wikipedia site for the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction, so you can browse through all of the winners. You've probably read more than you think, to be honest. Like some novels are like, oh, I forgot that they won the Pulitzer, you know, that kind of thing. So we're gonna start with the furthest back, when the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction was in its early days. In 1921, Edith Wharton's The Age of Innocence won. Now what's interesting is that a few years before, her magnificent, her wonderful and incredible novel, The House of Mirth, was published. But the Pulitzer Prize was not yet started. And so I always think it's funny that this book won, even though I think Edith Wharton's most renowned and perfected work is actually The House of Mirth, which I probably should have grabbed, but I didn't. I will try and leave detailed show notes down below. The Age of Innocence is set in New York in the early, or in the 19-teens. It's set in the present day for which it was published. This came out around 1920, and we're in present day New York for the time. So it doesn't feel very present day for us now, but it's present day for back then. I know you all get that. So we are following definitely high society, highbrow society, wealthy people, just incredible. There's well, I'll get into that in a minute. So we're mostly following Archie, who is a young man of high society who is slated to marry May, a woman who is a good match for him. And I say a good match because it feels as if that's kind of what high society was doing. You have this young man, eligible young man. He would go well with this eligible young woman. Let's get the families together and they'll marry, and it will be a good, wealthy sort of social match for both the families. And meanwhile, Count Ellen Olenska comes back into town, and her marriage has definitely gone off the rails, and she has thrown a monkey wrench into this marriage, this destined marriage between Archie and May. And so Archie definitely has this passion towards Ellen. And so it's really this story about, do you follow your passions or do you follow your duty? Meanwhile, though, Edith Wharton has these incredible descriptions. I mean, just fabulous, off the charts, amazing descriptions of the scenery, of the costumes, the outfits that people wear to the opera, the way that people are judging one another. Her observations of high society New York are second to none. They're incredible. So you have this really rich, textured story that is vibrant in setting and in costuming and in the way that high society functions. There's like this peep into high society in the late 19 teens. And yet, what's at the heart of it are kind of unlikable characters, to be honest with you, who are facing moral dilemmas. Now, my friend Deea, who's wonderful, she is funny because she actually doesn't, I don't think she cares for Edith Wharton, because all of her characters have like very low moral compass. So know that going in, that you're going to be meeting a lot of people who are deeply in the gray of morality. There's no one, none of the main characters are sort of like above, are taking the high road, we'll say. But it's definitely, we're within that struggle of the gray. And I think that's why I like it. I don't mind the sort of morally gray, morally reprehensible characters if it's done by Edith Wharton, okay? So this was great. It's just a phenomenal novel. If you've yet to read Edith Wharton, this is a great place to start. The House of Mirth is fantastic. Great place to start as well. And also, she has got a very short book if you're into incredibly bleak reads, Ethan Frome, which is still counts as probably one of the darkest books I've ever read. To be honest with you, it was just one of those, it's jarringly dark, okay? Moving up 40 years to the 1961 winner, we are going from Edith Wharton's glamorous New York to the humble South, we'll say, in Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird. This is a coming-of-age story following Scout, a young woman. We follow her years as a young person in this tiny town. She's got her wonderful brother, Jem, and her father, Atticus, who is a lawyer. And we get the quirky characters of her neighborhood. It is a wonderful example of Southern writing. And at the heart of it, there is a trial. And I really love this book. I know it's not perfect. I know in some parts it hasn't aged very well. However, I think that Harper Lee's keen observations of the South and the injustices that are carried out within the story, in many ways putting an exclamation point on her own points in the novel. Though it doesn't feel heavy-handed, but it's clear enough to understand what she's trying to do, I just think it's a fabulous novel. It's a fabulous novel. Her descriptions are great. The setting in and of itself is a bit of a character. And then she also has characters with a capital C. It's so interesting. I was so enamored with the read the first time I read it that I read it a second time within the calendar year. I was just all about this book. And I don't know. I know that it hasn't aged perfectly, but there's something about, I don't know. I think because it hasn't aged perfectly, it gives at least me a lot of food for thought. From 1961 to 1988, we get this masterful work, and it is Beloved by Toni Morrison. I have been doing a video series of books I love that I don't ever talk about. This would be on it. I don't talk about this book enough, and yet I think it is wonderful and incredible and really thought-provoking. I think one thing that Toni Morrison, at least from the videos that I see, I don't know, I could be missing a bunch of videos, but that's not talked about enough, is Toni Morrison's lyrical and musical style of writing, which really comes out in Beloved. But I think at the heart of it, what is its strength in this book is our main character, Sethe, who is a runaway slave. She's living in Ohio. We get Sethe's story at this moment in which she has this life for herself, that life that is free, and yet she's haunted by her past. And so slowly the background of the story, of Sethe's story, is revealed, and it is so heart-wrenching, and I don't know, I can feel the sort of prickles behind my eyes of my deep empathy towards Sethe. As a mother, there's this storyline of being a mother and deep regrets of certain moments in motherhood. For Sethe, they are incredibly deep, and the scars of being a slave that she has to carry with her, the weight of it. And it's so good. It's so good. And I don't know. We get to this point and it's kind of hard. It's like there's the climax of the book is both, it's a gut punch. It's an emotional gut punch. And it works so well because at this point we have learned about Sethe so much and her, and this weight of regret that she carries, that when you understand the actual weight of her regret, it is so eye-opening and it's so, I don't know, like empathy-inducing that I was like, oh my gosh. And she's trying to find closure and she's trying to find healing. And you want that so much for her. At least I wanted that so much for her. That this story just plays it out just beautifully. It's beautifully. And there's a use of magical realism in this book that I thought was really, really good. I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of magical realism. I'm not the starkest critic either. But it is played out in this novel that is just, it's so good. It's not overlong. It doesn't overstay its welcome. Again, very musical, very lyrical. And I think that the depth of emotion that Toni Morrison is able to put in this story was really masterfully done. Going from 1988 to 2001, we have Michael Chabon's The Amazing Adventures of Kavalier and Clay, which is an incredible, incredible book. It is set the beginning of the story goes from as Nazi-occupied Germany is starting to take over Europe. And Joe Kavalier has to escape Prague, and he shows up on his cousin's doorstep, Sammy Clay. And together they decide to take on the comic book industry. And they created this comic book called, I think, The Escapist. I think that's what it's called. Yes, The Escapist, which is based off of their love for like magicianry, magic tricks, Houdini, that kind of thing. Especially Joe is really sort of enamored with that idea, and Sammy knows and is a fan of superhero comics. And so together they join forces and decide to create their own comic book. And it's so masterfully done. I was like, is The Escapist an actual comic book? Because it's got so many layers and textures and these moments that it feels incredibly real and tangible. Like as if this comic was famous in the 1940s, 1950s, and I just happened to not know about it. It is truly the brainchild and imagination of Michael Chabon. He made it up and sort of implanted it in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, but it's done so well, even to the point where as we age with these characters, you really feel like it was part of the foundational part of like the foundational piece of literature of the likes of Superman and Spider-Man and so on and so forth. It is just an incredible piece, but it also is incredibly character driven. Both Sammy and Joe are very much opposites. You know, you have somebody who has lived a lot of life. Joe, having seen his city being taken over, they're both Jewish. And so Joe, living in a place that's being taken over by Nazi Germany, is very aware of the dangers of like a certain, I don't know, like he's just lived a lot of life. He's got a lot of depth in him. And he's such a perfect counterbalance to Sam, who is kind of like a golden retriever puppy a little bit. I mean, he's way more complex than that, who just doesn't know life like Joe does. And so it's just like these total opposites who happen to be perfect for each other come together and are incredible. And the scenes are so cinematic and they're so dramatic and they're so good. We've come to 2005 and we have Marilynne Robinson's Gilead, which is an incredibly wise and thoughtful book. And in many ways it's set up to be very thoughtful and very wise. The setup is that there is this aging preacher, I believe in Iowa, who's writing letters to his son about what he's learned. And it's like he had his son, this aging preacher had his son when he was older. And so he's like, what can I give? What can I bequeath to my son that is wise, that is life lessons that I've learned from my, like, this, all of the years that I've had on this earth, and sort of being aware of his age, but also being sensitive that he's writing these letters to someone who's much younger than him. And it's like putting all of his wisdom and all of this like tenderness and care into these letters that he is eventually going to give his son, which is so good. The setup is so amazing. And so you get this like gentle storyline of this man who's lived and has regrets and has a lot of wisdom to pass on. And that's what the book is. And so it's like some of the pieces were just so beautifully rendered. It's one of those books that's very, very, very slow. And I think as you read it, it's almost better to just take it in the way that it wants to be read. It wants to be thought about. It wants to be read slowly. It wants you to maybe ponder and think about what it has to say. And then you finish it and you're like, that was actually a lot more thoughtful and a lot more wise than I gave it credit for as I was going through the book. Anyway, so that's it from me. Tell me Pulitzer prizes you have liked. Again, I'll leave my complete list of what I've read down below. Would love to hear from you. And that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for being here, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye!